Here are the SpaceX news stories from the past week. From AeroSpaceNews.com on the third rock from the sun, I am Aero. 31 March 2025. On Monday, March 31st at 3:52 p.m. Eastern Time, a Falcon 9 launched 28 Starlink satellites to low Earth orbit from Space Station Complex 40, that's also known as Slick 40, at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in Florida. This was, according to the company, the 17th flight for the first stage booster supporting this mission, which previously launched AX-2, Euclid AX-3, CRS-30, SES Astra 1P, NG-21, and now 11 Starlink missions. On April 3rd, 2025, another Starlink mission. So on Thursday, April 3rd at 6:02 p.m. Pacific Time, a Falcon 9 launched 27 Starlink satellites to low Earth orbit from Space Launch Complex 4 East, that's Slick 4E, at Vandenberg Space Force Base in Florida. Vandenberg was and remains in California. This was the fifth flight for the first stage booster supporting that mission, according to SpaceX, and it previously launched National Reconnaissance Orbiting Labs NROL 126, Transporter 12, Sphere X, NROL 57, and now a Starlink mission. A lot of acronyms in there. This single booster, this is kind of interesting, has launched 3 missions with 3 different payloads in just over 3 weeks. Again, single booster that just flew on April 3rd out of Vandenberg in California, launched 3 missions with 3 different payload types in just over 3 weeks. Mind blown. April 5th. Another Starlink mission. And if it seems like I'm taking the big news out of order here, you're right. Because the big news requires more attention, so we're going to cover the sort of Starlink spaceport traffic first, and then we're going to get into some really cool meaty stuff. Stick with me. So on April the 5th, another Starlink mission launched at 11:07 p.m. Eastern Time. It was a Falcon 9, of course, again, and it launched 28 Starlink satellites to low Earth orbit from Space Launch Complex 40, once again, Slick 40 at Cape Canaveral Space Station in Florida. Now, this was the 19th flight for the first stage booster that supported that mission, and it had previously launched Crew 6, SES-03B, Empower B, USSF 124, Bluebird 15, and now 15 Starlink missions. All right, time for the fillet. Fram 2. From March 31st to April the 4th, 2025, the very, very cool Fram 2 mission has been underway. And after nearly 4 days in orbit, the Dragon and Fram crew, Fram 2, the crew safely returned via splashdown at 9:19 a.m. Pacific Time off the coast of Oceanside, California, and that completed the first human spaceflight mission to explore the Earth from a polar orbit. Very cool. And fly over the Earth's, of course, polar regions. This is also kind of an interesting milestone. This is also Dragon's first West Coast recovery since 2019, and it's the first Dragon human spaceflight mission to splash down in the Pacific Ocean. Recovery vessel Shannon assisted in the post-splashdown pickup of Dragon and her crew. This was, in fact, the 50th Dragon mission overall, and let's talk for a moment about the crew. I may get some of these names, the pronunciations wrong. Please forgive me. It's not out of disrespect. I'm just not 100% certain I'm going to get this right. So this was the first human spaceflight mission for the commander Chun Wang, vehicle commander Janaki Mikkelsen, vehicle pilot Rabea Rogi, and mission specialist and medical officer Eric Phillips. The spacecraft was named in honor of Fram, the first exploration ship to complete voyages to the Arctic and Antarctic in the late 1800s, and the crew on this flight carried a very small piece of that ship with them to orbit. Contrary to rumors, I was not actually present covering the original Fram missions in the 1800s. Don't believe everything you read on the internet. Fram 2 is also the second mission to fly with Dragon's cupola. At nearly 4 feet wide, the cupola is the largest continuous window in space, and it provides essentially 360-degree views. The mission objectives during their 4-day mission included conducting 22 research studies designed to help advance humanity's capabilities for long-duration space exploration and understanding human health better in space. They took the first X-ray in space. They performed exercise studies to maintain muscle and skeletal mass and grew mushrooms in microgravity. Additionally, after the crew safely returned to Earth over by Oceanside, California, they exited the Dragon spacecraft without additional medical and operational assistance, which helped researchers, according to SpaceX, characterize the ability of astronauts to perform unassisted functional tasks after short and long durations in space. Basically, once they opened up the spacecraft, the crew got out on their own, under their own steam. They were not helped out of the spacecraft. Fram 2 was also the second mission to test laser-based communication using Starlink. The crew and Dragon, of course, launched to a 90-degree circular orbit from Pad 39A in Florida, and they traveled to an altitude of approximately 440 kilometers. During their time in space, the Framinauts orbited the Earth about 55 times, and they passed over the poles every 46 minutes. Very cool mission. NASA was not involved in this at all. In case that's not clear, this was a private endeavor. Also, sticking with SpaceX here, also on April the 3rd, there was a static fire of a Super Heavy Booster. The static fire of the Super Heavy Booster is important because this booster is preparing to launch Starship's 9th and next flight test. The booster previously launched and returned on Flight 7 29, but not all, 29 of the 33 Raptor engines on this Super Heavy Booster are flight proven. So SpaceX plans to refly not just the booster, but 29 of the engines. I'm not sure why they're changing out the rest of them. It could be because they want to test new technology, or they want to make sure that they've got 33 operational Raptor engines, and those other engines had suffered damage or wear in such a way that they didn't wish to refly them. That's not clear to me. I haven't seen any public statements from SpaceX explaining this disparity, why they're not reflying 33. But it wouldn't surprise me if there had been some damage or some wear issues on some of them, or that they're introducing new technology that they want to test. The company also claims that the first Super Heavy reuse will be a big step towards their goal of a zero-touch reflight, which is a very crazy idea, just in terms of, like, imagine that, a zero-touch reflight. I think that they are quite far away from that goal. There's still an enormous amount of processing required to take any element of the SpaceX Starship system, whether it's the upper stage or the Super Heavy Booster, and recover it and then refly it again quickly. Last piece of big SpaceX news from the last week. On April 4th, SpaceX found out that they had been awarded the majority of the Space Force Phase 3 Lane 2 launch missions for the Department of Defense. These 28 missions will include a mix of Falcon 9 and Falcon Heavy rockets and will take place over a 5-year period. It does appear that the value of these launches is approximately $5.9 billion, while the legacy competitor United Launch Alliance, aka ULA, that's a joint venture between Lockheed and Boeing, won a contract for only 19 missions on this award cycle, worth $5.4 billion, and latecomer Blue Origin has received 7 missions, and it appears that that contract is worth about $2.4 billion. ULA will use its just certified Vulcan rocket to fulfill its contract, and Blue Origin has yet to certify its next generation New Glenn, which has only flown once, but that is the platform that they're planning to use to fulfill their contract obligations. If you want more unbiased SpaceX news, be sure to hit the subscribe button and that like button and watch this video next.